Hello, welcome to episode 2 of today's Hotline Live with Record Sport.
Here we go again.
I'm joined in his pyjamas by the one and only Keith Jackson.
This is my streetwear.
I don't even know where to start, Keith. I mean,
do you know what, Daniel? I'll stop you, right? I mean, last night was such a breathless, mental 95 minutes. It was crazy. It was, just raging from end to end, mostly Celtic going towards young boys. Goal. Tonight was a very different football match, very different game of football, but it was no less compelling. You were glued to it. It was fascinating. It was more of a tactical, more of a chess game in parts. But the one conclusion that I'm going to take from it is Ruben Amorim wasn't joking, was he?
You can say that again. I mean,
that's such a poor United side. Now,
Thomas Burns in the comment section coming in already. How poor Man United they are rubbish. That's an understatement. I can't believe how poor Man you are.
Yeah, but do you know what? I'm gonna let's. Yes, that's correct, and that's the first obvious conclusion to draw. Secondly, what I would have to say is, as a person who has given Philip Clement his fair share of stick over the period, see if he wants to claim tonight about the Moral Victory Cup being lifted. He probably can. That was a Rangers B team, a mediocre Rangers, and that's the B team that he had out there. People falling over all over the place. You've got Tavernier having to fill in at centre half, who, by the way, was excellent.
Yeah, he was good.
Young kids coming in off the bench, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds. Of course, Dessers scores the goal. And at that point, I don't think anybody could have begrudged Rangers if they'd taken a point. That was... I felt that would have been a fitting end to that football match tonight. Yefty fell asleep. And Bruno Fernandes got United's winner. It's not the first time that Yefty's fallen asleep at left back. Defensively, he's prone to switching off at key moments. Such a shame because, I said ahead of these two games, if Celtic could win at home and Rangers could get a draw at United, that'd be two magnificent results for Scottish football. But I'll look on the bright side as far as Rangers are concerned. There was real all hands on deck stuff there tonight. Clement's having to patch a team together. His starting 11 was patched together, never mind the team that ended the game. And they've come within a couple of minutes of taking a draw away from Old Trafford. They're in a great position. They have qualified. I think that was confirmed tonight for the playoff stages. And a win against USG at Ibrox in the final game, depending on who's left standing at that point, could even put them into the mix for the top 8. So, do you know what? Hats off to Celtic for achieving what they've achieved, and hats off to Rangers, and hats off to the young kids. And by the way, what about Bailey Rice? What about that?
He was a standout, wasn't he?
Yeah, just before Dessers got the equaliser, Bailey Rice pops a ball over the top, which players twice his age, with twice, 3-4 times his experience, might struggle to see that pass, never mind execute it. So there's another kind of not silver lining, but another kind of hope for Rangers. That kid's got serious talent. He came through in the same Motherwell youth team as Lennon Miller, and I think they both played at Scotland youth levels together. Looks like a real player. Look, that was a sore one for Rangers tonight, the way it ended. But they can. Do you know what? They can come away with their heads held high. Scottish football, in fact, can come away with its head held high after another very encouraging midweek. Obviously, we talked about the freakish goal that Celtic won last night's game with. It looked, to all intents and purposes, as if that was going to be a freak goal that Rangers would lose that one with. And I'm sure we'll come to that at some point in the discussion. I'm sure people want to comment on it. What's going on with Jack Butland? Because I know he's just back from injury, but before he had the injury, he was making errors that you wouldn't expect of him. And that one was difficult to excuse tonight. And it came just moments after Eagleman had to save him. by popping up the goal line to clear one off the line. I think it was a Diallo corner that Butland came for and didn't get anywhere near. So that might be a concern. Of all the things, that Rangers don't need to worry about tonight after a brave performance, one concern that might be in Philip Clement's mind coming back up the road is, what's the situation with his number one?
Yeah, absolutely. We're getting a few comments, Keith, on Bailey Rice. See, we're talking about Rangers rebuilding this season. They're not going to win the league and what have you. Surely they should be getting players like that in now, embedded into the first team, showing what they can do like tonight. Because I thought he showed real promise.
Every time I've seen the kid, he looks like he looks like a proper player. He looks mature beyond his years. His use of the ball is terrific. But he's got that, that beautiful thing that really good midfield players have, that ability to kind of make it look as if he can play at a slower pace than everybody else. As if hustle and bustle all around, but he's almost playing at different shutter speed. For somebody so young to have that kind of inbred ability is really quite impressive for me. I wonder if he'd stayed at Motherwell, by the way, if we were having an argument right now about who's the better player between him and Lennon Miller.
Aye.
But yes, I think you're right, Daniel. If I'm Philip Clement, and we all know what the model is for Rangers now in the structure about trying to bring through young players and buy low, sell high. Well, you've got this kid for buttons, peanuts. I think the more time he gets in that first team, the better he's going to become. And I think by holding him back and not giving him more first team appearances, you might stall him a little bit.
Yeah,
I absolutely agree. The more game time that boy can get in the pitch between now and the end of the season can only work in his favour and in Rangers' favour. I think they've got a cracker there.
Yeah, me too. You mentioned it before, Keith. We might as well just address it now because we're getting lots of comments on Jack Butland. Butterfinger strikes again. Clement should have started with Kelly. Richard Allen saying the club needs to look into getting rid of Butland in this window. He's becoming a liability and costing games now. See, if you remember, Keith, back towards the back end of last season, remember he saved a penalty from O'Reilly at Celtic Park, and he looked like a really top keeper. He looked like an asset to Rangers, but he looks a shadow.
Asset.
Aye, he looks a shadow of the player.
Huge asset, by the way, and not just that, but a real leader of men.
Aye.
He kind of took on a de facto captaincy at that point when there's fans outside the ground waiting to abuse players. Butland was fronting everything up. I think he's going through a difficult patch. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's something to do with, the injury. Maybe he was carrying it for a while. It's really hard to tell. But you remember the kind of suicidal decision he made at St Mirren when he gave away a penalty. That was crazy. And it kind of sparked a period where he looked really unsure of himself. And that's what I'm saying. If you're Clement, you're in a situation right now where you're thinking, do you need to have a heart-to-heart with the guy? Do you need to try and get inside his head a little bit? But Butland, as you said, Daniel, when Butland arrived in a free transfer, it looked like a brilliant bit of business for Rangers. I still think it has been, and I still think he'll recover from this. But he's going through a bit of a wobble right now, and that's possibly an understatement.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, sorry, I'm smiling here because Rice has played 20 minutes. You're shouting about him like he's the next Pirlo. Calm the ham, Keith. Look, well, no one's saying he's Pirlo. Just thought he had a good game tonight,
No, I'm comparing him to Lennon Miller.
Exactly.
Not Pirlo. But listen, no, it's not 20 minutes. I've seen him a few times, and I've been really impressed. He's one of these kids that you're surprised how impressed you are with him when he comes onto the pitch. I saw him in a couple of games, I think, in pre-season, and I just thought, well, this boy looks ready. And he's not had any game time really. I think he come on at the weekend, come on again tonight. But absolutely, if I was Philip Clement, I'd be thinking, I want him on my bench, and I'm quite happy to put him on, feed him in, bleed him into the team, give him a half an hour here, 20 minutes there, because I think they might find that they've won a bit of a watch with him.
Aye, no, I agree. We're getting a lot of comments as well, Keith, on Dessers. I mean, this one, Dessers scores again. The Rangers fans want rid of him. Look, He must be the strangest player in the history of the Old
By the
Firm.
way, I'm going to say, what about the touch and the finish? Do you know I'm not convinced that the touch was brilliant? His
Really?
first touch, do you know I'm not sure that he killed it the way he wanted to kill it? But listen, who am I? That what he did was, whether he meant it just the way it came off or not, I'm not sure. The finish was absolutely superb.
Aye.
And I keep saying it, I've said it, I don't know how long. Yes, I've been highly critical of Cyriel Dessers, but I've also said that I've got this thing about the guy, I really want him to do well because he just comes across as such a lovely big fella.
Yeah.
You want good things to happen for him. And that would have been such a moment for him tonight if Rangers had held on for a 1-1 and Dessers could have walked away. He felt brilliant about himself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another probably positive for Clement is, I think I was one of the first to say that Dessers needed taking out the firing line. And maybe the weight of the world on his shoulders for a while. Yeah. And maybe coming out, he's coming in off the bench now and he's adding stuff, isn't he? He's scoring goals, he's looking sharp, he looks as if he's up for the fight. Now, I don't know, the kind of speculation around it would suggest that Dessers could be away before the end of this window. But we did discuss this the other night, Daniel, and I said, well, you know, think whatever you want about Dessers, but unless you've got a guy that kind of guarantees you the goals that he can chip in with, then why would you sell? Because they're not going to make a profit on him. So, you know, and I think he's proved again tonight, he's a guy that is worthwhile keeping around the place, because I think he's got a voice in the dressing room. I think he's a popular guy. I think he's a good guy who brings people with him. And then he comes up with a moment like that tonight, and you think, if you put his show reel together, you might be able to get a couple of quid from him.
I was going to say, I wonder if, you know, there's been rumours of interest from clubs across Europe. I tell you, if they're watching tonight, maybe it could lead to a couple of bids in the last week of the transfer window.
Yeah, but then if you just see the goal, but if you see the one that he goes through when Bailey Rice puts him through, he probably should do better there. He probably should be a bit more committed.
Yeah.
And then the one where he gets the ball, centre circle, turns, does really well, and then fails to make the pass. It's those things are the things that holds him back. It's like one step forward, two steps back sometimes. But look, again, the goal was first class, and you've got to give him credit for having the composure, because many times have you seen him where in that situation he might have been more inclined naturally to take an extra touch, to try and chop back inside, to do something that you don't need to do. It was one touch, bang, goal. And if he did more of that, he'd probably have doubled his goal tally for Rangers.
Yeah.
It's the ones that he messes about with that he ends up, you know, not converting.
Yeah.
But that was a quality goal from him tonight. It's just a shame, because it was a real struggle for Rangers tonight in terms of, you know, people falling over. The team wasn't anywhere near a first choice Rangers starting 11. They've done so well to take it to that stage in the match, and you just thought, oh, well, you know, that's terrific. To come away, there's even a bit of irony about it, the fact that it's Dessers that scores the goal. You just think, fair play, everybody's rolled their sleeves up in a real bad situation, and they've taken something. And it's just, I feel it's a bit of a shame that it's ended with a defeat. But at the same time, you know, Rangers are where they needed to be in this competition. Mm-hmm. They're going to make the playoff. Possibly outside chance still of reaching the top 8. And you would fancy them to take 3 points, as I said, depending on what the injury situation looks like by the time they get round to next midweek.
Excuse my ignorance as well, Keith, and I suppose anyone watching, if you want to chip in with the answer. Can Rangers now, after the league phase, register players like Hadji, like Danilo?
Yeah.
They can, can't they?
Yeah.
That will be important.
The kind of squad list that they've put in, that everybody puts in, gets to the end of this group stage, is my understanding. And yes, they can freshen up a little bit. Obviously, you've got January signings, so that would come into play as well. Not that we expect Rangers to make very many January signings, But they have brought in a defender, so he goes straight in, you would imagine.
Yep.
And then they'll be kind of going to the medical department and sports scientists and, you know, asking them what the situation is with the likes of John Suter. Rangers can get much, much, much stronger. And that gives them a bit of hope going into, you know, the next phase of this competition. They're not out of this yet, not by a long shot. And although I started off by saying that Ruben Amorim was quite right about the state of that Man United team, you still got to give Rangers their due for going down there, having to put out a makeshift starting 11, which got even more makeshift the more the match went on, and then still managing to come so close.
Yeah.
Disappointing in the end, but not disastrous. Certainly not embarrassing. They can come away from that with their heads held high.
I'm going to come to the injuries in a wee second, Keith, but like this comment here, Chris Boyd has just said the top team in England beat the top team in Scotland. Did the panel agree? Now, I suspect...
And that's got to be ironic, because
he's been a bit mischievous, but I wanted to follow up with this one. Two of the poorest teams in the club's history. And, you know, without taking it away from Rangers' performance, I think that might be right.
Well, I listen, I think we put everyone in context here. I understand Mark's point there. I understand why you might be inclined to agree. But I think there are Rangers fans that would accept right now, put their hand in the heart and say, yeah, it's pretty mediocre, this Rangers team, compared to what they've seen from years ago. But that is years ago. You know, if you're winding back the clock to, you know, a decade ago and where Rangers were and the team that was playing in the lowest tier, the Scottish Professional League, Kevin Kyle up front, etc., etc. Ian Black, Sandaza, these guys.
Aye, that's fair. Aye, that's a good point.
You know, so that was Rangers rock bottom, and it's taken a while, and it's been, I'm sure, a lot more slow than the Rangers fans would have wished for. But they've had a long, long journey to get back into the point where they're actually competing. Listen, they got a European final a couple of seasons ago.
Of course,
it's been an incredible achievement for Rangers to do that. Is this a great Rangers team? No. Have they had to reduce the wage bill since even last season? Yes. But look, let's get it right. There were Rangers teams in the last decade which wouldn't get close to this one. It's not a great Rangers team by any manner of means. It's mediocre. Is this the worst Man United side that I can remember in my lifetime? Well, unless I'm going back to maybe the early 80s, then yeah.
I honestly, blown away by how poor Man United are. I mean, if Butland hadn't punched that ball in, it didn't look like they were going to create it.
In no danger.
Exactly.
That I find will be the frustrating thing for Clement and for the players. They weren't in any danger. They were, you know, if anything, and in fact, not even if anything, the stats will show, I'm sure Rangers had more shots on target. They certainly had the better chances.
I had the better chances.
The little move right at the start that put Raskin in, that was very reminiscent of the way they were playing against Spurs, of the way they played against Celtic, pressing teams into making mistakes in the final third. Great little ball from Igaman into Raskin. Raskin's really unlucky. He just didn't bring the ball with him on his first touch. He caught up under his feet a little bit. Otherwise, that's 1-0.
The one thing, though, Keith, that it's John very helpfully reminded us, don't forget Man U had the goal ruled out for a very, very soft foul and proper. Even Alan Hutton said it wasn't a foul. I did think that was extremely soft.
No, it was soft. It was soft. Aye. But do you know what? You see it all the time. I mean, I think Man United got a free kick for a foul on their goalkeeper that was committed by their own player.
Aye, that's true.
So I don't think the officials were great tonight, to be honest with you. I think the officials weren't great. Man United weren't great. Rangers weren't great. Wasn't the greatest of matches, but it was still a really compelling watch. And I think Rangers' final sort of a summation from this will be Rangers will probably take more positives out of that than Man United. If I'm Man United, I'm not feeling a great deal happier about myself tonight.
Yeah,
I think Rangers can look at that and say, well, look at where we're at. I mean, Our defence has been wiped out. Our right back is playing at centre half, and by the way, he wasn't even our first choice right back a few weeks ago. We started with 2 left backs playing on the left hand side. Had to use one of the left backs to come across and play at right back. You've got youngsters coming onto the pitch all over the place. Balogun had to come off at half time. So I think Rangers can look at that and say, well, from the situation and the cards they were dealt, yeah, it'll be a disappointment that they haven't managed to nick that point right at the death. But I think they walk away with their heads held high. And I think the youngsters that have been thrown into that situation in particular can be proud of, their contribution. And again, I'll come back to it. I think Bailey Rice is a cracker. I think they've got the potential to have a proper player in their hands there.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right when you say that they can come away with their head held high even though they lost. But just to kind of round things up, you mentioned the injuries. Barron, Balogun and Czerny all come off injured tonight to add to some of the injuries they've already got. And Tannadice on Sunday. I don't know why Tannadice seems more daunting a prospect than Old Trafford right now for Rangers.
I completely agree. We were saying it even days ago before this game. Tannadice does look like a real tricky one for Rangers, even more so now. You look at the Czerny situation, you think, well, was it a hamstring? Looked to me as if it might have been. If it's a hamstring, then you can forget about him for the weekend. Mm-hmm. And he's obviously been one of the better players. Again, I don't think he was brilliant tonight. I didn't think there was many Rangers players that you would actually... And there's another thing. Even with the starting 11, Rangers were nowhere near the best tonight.
Yeah.
Eagleman, nowhere near it. Bayrami didn't contribute. Czerny was okay, but we've seen him so much better. It wasn't a brilliant Rangers performance or anywhere near it. I think what you would say is, certainly what I would say is, I thought Raskin, once again, absolutely terrific. And there's another reason for Rangers to be hopeful, because having been kind of frozen so far out the picture by Philippe Clement, Raskin has come in, game on game, improved to the point that he's able to run the show in the middle of the park, snapping into tackles. Bear in mind, it was his getting in about, ratting about people's ankles that caused Man United to give up possession for Eagleman to put that pass through. Raskin, for me, looks pretty much as I thought of him when he came into the team at first. He's a very good football player.
Yeah.
But yeah, Yilmaz had a poor game, I thought.
Yilmaz, we've got to the point where Yilmaz needs to go. He's no.
But who else got put out there?
I know.
So that's basically they are down to a last man standing competition, just to pick a starting 11. So for that reason, and I've been heavy in my criticism of Philippe Clement, but I'm not going to criticise the guy tonight.
That's fair.
That was just a real difficult situation for him to try and get through. And do you know what? He did just about as well as Rangers could have hoped to have done.
Yeah. Well, this comment, Keith, a couple of people saying, probably quite rightly, the game at Tannadice may not be on. The Storm Owen, or whatever you say. We all had our alarms going off on our phone earlier.
Yeah, well,
who knows?
That's meant to be clear by 5 o'clock on Friday afternoon. So unless Rangers fans are hoping that the main stand gets blown over or something, or that Tannadice gets blown into Dens Park, I think I don't think there's any threat to fixtures on Saturday afternoon. It's meant to be okay by 5 p.m. tomorrow.
Aye, that's true. I know. I just thought I'd throw it out there. Well,
Gavin Shed might not make it, but I'm pretty sure Tannadice will be okay.
Well, if the game does go ahead, we'll be there to cover it after it on Sunday. It's a 12 o'clock kickoff. We'll be on air at 4 p.m. I understand.
4 p.m.
4 p.m.
We're back on at 11 p.m. or something like that. Is that?
That's the first shift that day. No, we'll be on at 4 p.m. just to pour over not only Rangers clash with Dundee United, but all the weekend's Premiership action as well. I should just take the chance to say that the comments and the views that we've had the last 2 nights at 10 o'clock, we really appreciate it. We appreciate all the support. We appreciate you getting in touch and involved in the
Don't make
conversation.
us come back. Don't let's make us. Look, the whole reason that we did this week, because we knew that these were two massive games. It hasn't quite worked out as well as we'd hoped. We hoped that, you know, Rangers might get a result at Old Trafford, but at the end of the day, Celtic have made it into the playoffs for the Champions League. Rangers have made it into the playoffs for the Europa League. It's been a good week.
Yeah.
But let's not do this regularly, Daniel.
I was saying that speech is a kind of goodbye. We'll not be back at 10. But no, it's been great. And listen, thanks so much to everyone watching at home. Thanks for all the comments. And yeah, we'll be back on Sunday. Hope you can join us then. Cheers, Keith.
Cheers, Daniel. Good night.
Good
night, folks.